Okay, how to use this tool. First thing first, open up your character in POE, importing my character. Go to item, remove Indigon so you can see all your meta numbers. Configuration, make sure any conditional things are off, like frenzy charges if you have, turn them off. Everything else. Now you see your mana cost and everything. Okay, back to this top left corner, stats. You go to your main spender, take the mana cost, 52, plug it in there. The attack speed, plug it in there. This will come in later, your Indigon stats. I have a 60-20. Your total mana. This is currently without with Indigon. Arcane, my current arcane cloak level 17. Okay, and then your up to 3 mana forge setup. So on the first, on my first setup, I have Rain of Arrow and Scourge Arrow of Menace. They cost 33 each, which you can also see in the POE. 33 and 33. Ignore this for now. Second Mana Forge Arrow setup. Right now I am using Storm Rain of the Conduit with Inspiration. So 52. This is kind of a test right now. Before I had, instead of Inspiration, I had Conk Effect, which made it 100. But let's go with 52 for now. This is a new thing I added, a total leech rate. I pretty much, this is kind of scuffed, but I just added these numbers. So 1900, the beam, 5800, I just took release, whatever, 2800 and 700. Added all of those numbers, about 11,200. This is basically used to calculate these rows, the stability, to give you somewhat of an idea of how sustainable you are with your mana leeching. But this is definitely much higher because this is only on one target and you're hitting more or with like more frequency and whatnot. Anyways, this is just a rough thing for now. Okay, first main thing is this section, the non-arcane cloak section, where shows you your ramping without arcane cloak if you just attack normally. So with my current setup, if you look at the effectiveness, I am getting to my full effectiveness of Indigon at somewhere around the 5 to 6 second mark. So at around 6 seconds, I will have the full benefit of Indigon and I'll have the most, like, all the damage. So now if you expand this, the sustainability, or if you more specifically, if you look at the total mana spent, you can see that at the 5 seconds, a little past the 5 seconds, I'm spending more than something to point out real quick is these numbers are taken if you were to continuously attack, just hold down the button, and this is per second, so this is over 20 seconds. Anyways, back to my setup. So after 5 seconds, I'm spending a little more than 7,500 mana every second. And then at the 6 second, it's 15,000. So if you see, I have a total mana of 15,000, and at 6 seconds, I'm spending pretty much my entire mana bar, and that's why you'll see in the leech sustainability, it falls off after this 5 to 6, because then, well, in hideout, it'll just go down all the way at 6 seconds. But let's say in mapping or bossing, this at the 6 second mark, I won't be able to over sustain. Well, I'll probably still be able to because it's leeching more, but let's say 7 or 8 seconds, I won't be able to over sustain. So just to show in hideouts, up to 6 seconds. So if I attack at roughly 6 seconds, you'll see that I use up my whole mana bar. Okay, that's so these two sections, the cloak sections, are not too important because it just tells you how quickly you're ramping up. Like most people are ramping up, within like this 10 seconds anyways. But it gives you an idea, like I'm at 5 to 6 seconds. And this kind of plays into the gearing a little bit, which I'll go over in a bit. Okay, now the Arcane Cloak section. This is after, this section shows after you've used Arcane Cloak one time at the start, and then you start attacking. So here, if you expand, you can see that after you've used Arcane Cloak, you've already spent so at level 17, after Arcane okay, I'm selected. Okay, at Arcane Cloak 17, it's, for me, with 15,000 mana, it's using up 9,698 mana, which starts my ramp. After I attack for the first second, I'm pretty much already at full capacity of Indigon, because I've spent, recently I've spent 21,000 mana. That's with the Arcane Cloak. So Arcane Cloak, and then you attack, I'm at full whatever. And then these are the numbers. So here also the sustainability in the first second is somewhat sustainable, but falls off dramatically. And then mana cost obviously increases dramatically as well. Okay, now the juicy part. This is a juicy one, Exiles. The trigger. So this trigger is pretty much entirely based off of your mana cost of the main skill and the mana cost of your Mana Forge arrow setups. So the first skill, so basically the way it works, I've learned a lot about this build just making this. So the Scourge and Rain of Arrow cost 33, and Mana Forge Arrow will trigger the skill once 300% or 3 times the mana cost of that skill is spent with a different bow skill that's not in the link. So basically your main mana spender, which is for me Volley of Fire. So basically this being 33, that means when I spend 99, my bad, when I spend 99 mana with the main spender, it's being triggered. And for me, because my main spender is 52, it's triggering every 2 attacks. Here, the first, my 2 skill cost the same mana, so they're both being cast every 2 attacks. It's actually, I could trigger every 1.9, but it has to round up to the next whole attack because I have to actually attack to spend that mana. So it's rounded up to 2. And then with my third setup, the Storm Rain, it's costing 52 mana, which is being triggered every 3 attack. So for demonstration, okay, so these two will fire every 2 attacks. So 1, 2, they fire, and then 1, 2, they fire again, 1, 2, they fire again. Okay, and then Storm Rain every 3 attack. 1, 2, okay, let's reset, and then 1, 2, 3, fire, 1, 2, 3, fire. Okay, so the efficiency here, this is where basically you have to play around, or most people are having trouble with their build being scuffed or whatever, or broken, and this is where you have to play around with the mana. So let's say, for example, well, currently my Scourge Arrow is level 7, which is making it cost 33, but let's say I level it up a bit too much and it's costing 35. You can see that this number immediately just jumps off to something completely different than all these other numbers. And by the way, the goal here is to get your efficiency as close to 100%, and also for all of these to sync or match to a number close to each other. So I had 95, 95, 100, which is great. They're close, and it's close to 100, so that's ideal. But right now, let's say I level up Scourge Arrow too much, and it's costing 35. Boom! It's way less efficient because it's now, with this other one, is casting every 2 attack, but this one it went just over 2, but it has to go to the next attack, so it's casting every 3, and that's what's gonna kind of make it feel wonky, right? So I'll go over some more alternatives in a bit, but that's basically how this setup works. And then so this section for your skills, you tweak around your mana numbers to get this right, and these other 2 sections you play around with your stats to see kind of where you're at in the ramp. Okay, so now to go over my gear a little bit. Let's start with the tree. So just the typical, I just took Connor's POB and did a little bit of tweaking, so pretty much same tree. Healthy Mind, large cluster here with a rare jewel for attack speed and ancestral vision, so I decided to go element immunity with a prefix craft on the chest. Watcher's Eye with clarity, a natural instinct, cheap brutal restraint with just flat dex, and a cold res. Careful planning, another large with cheap split personality. So this tool basically helped me. One of the ways it's helped me is gearing very cheaply. Without Indigon, I'd say I'd spend around like 40-50 divine total. And that's because I realized I didn't need a lot of things that people say you need, but you don't really. Anyways, the Widow Hell. So at first I thought that I would get some added lightning damage on gear to kind of help before the ramp if I was weaker, but it's like literally makes no difference. Anyways, I have it, lightning damage, regular thing, Indigon with the stats. The tool also helped me figure out the stats, which I'll go over in a bit. Typical quiver, the most expensive part of the gear. Just amulet. I used the POB, what is it? Trade for these items and put the filter to the adjusted weight to full on dex and mana. I think I did 50 weight and 50 on mana to find this. And yeah, anyway, rings just to fill resistance and dex, like chaos res and dex. Body armor, just found a very cheap one, and I guess kind of lucky. I had this like craft where I could have two crafts, so attribute and prefix. This was like 2 divine. Again, cheap. Enfeeble is like the go-to, but I just got elemental weakness. Dex, res, Garukan. Spell suppress, but didn't need it because I'm way over. 57 over. Yeah, just LE, flask, and then gem. I have a volley fire instead of lightning arrow. I just like the AoE, the clear of this feels nicer, and you have more than enough damage, so this works. Fork, okay. Lightning penetration, just regular gems, not even leveled. LE damage, faster. Returning projectiles. Some people use what's it called? Leech, mana leech here. Okay. And you have to keep in mind that if you use mana leech, because mana leech doesn't have cost multiplier, your mana cost will be lower than any other support. So it goes from 52 to 47, replacing faster attack, and let's say I replace fork, it goes to 41. But 52 is a good number, so I don't use this. The clarity, arrogance, frost blink arrow, the haste with eternal blessing, arcane cloak, and storm rain setup with elemental damage, inspiration here. Before I had conk effect, inspiration, mana forge, lightning penetration, mirage archer. So note that, actually I'll go over that in a bit. Rain of arrow, scourge, mana forge, mana leech. Okay, so now the way that this tool helped me gear is, first I was buying all of these pieces. On the quiver I just looked for 2, I got something with 2 line of attack speed. With my prior testing, I knew that I kind of wanted to be, I was looking through a lot of POE ninja builds and their setups and their attack speed and whatnot, so I knew I needed to be kind of like close to 4 or around 4 attack speed, and my mana cost would be 52, because that's what other people had as well. So so that means I had to get 2 attack speed rolls on the quiver. Before I had 4, I had 3.8 something without this jewel. Where is it? Okay. 3.46. And then I tested a bunch of jewels. I plugged in a bunch of jewels in POB to see which one would get me above the 4. Yeah. haste wasn't on. Okay, got me worried for a second. Anyways, yeah, without the jewel, it was like 3.89, and then I got the jewel, 4. Okay, yeah, and then I had all my gems level 1 to do some testing, so now we go to POB. So when I had 3.89 attack speed, I was I kind of used this to pick out my Indigon. So with the 3.89, with this amount of mana, before Indigon I think I had like a little less mana, and then I wanted to see what level 20. And then so what I was looking at here to buy my Indigon was with 3.89 I would have my full ramp up would be somewhere between 6 and 7 seconds, and then with Arcane Cloak at the first second, you know, with most builds, like once you're at the high mana range, like this doesn't even matter because you're after the first second you're at full ramp anyways. But and then I got a little higher attack speed, which pushed me from the 6 to 7 second mark up to the 5 to 6. So it's just I'm just ramping up 1 second earlier. It makes no difference. But so because I didn't have too much currency, I was able to use this to not nitpick and get the highest spell thing, which is a couple divine higher, and typically people say you want the highest spell with the lowest mana cost, which can be pretty expensive. So you go 25 and 50. This is what, 60 divine, 70 divine. That's too much. And you'll notice that if you did that, if you got the 50 and the 25, you're still at 6 to 7 second ramp. Doesn't matter. And once again, still in the first second. So, but if you really wanted to be nitpicky with the Indigon, you could look at the number and say that I want to be at that second as close to 100. So then if you let's say you want a 51, this would be too much. Or if you want to ramp up earlier and you get a higher mana cost, and you want to ramp in the 5 seconds, you're at 74%, so you go to like 60 and you're at full with the 25. You're at 81 here if that's what you want to do. But let's say you go to 50, and then you can play with these numbers, 20, and you're at 86. So here from the 6 to 7, let's say you have one of these Indigon with 50, 20, and you're looking at 86. It's not that I want to ramp up. It's not fully effective. So then you go for a little higher spell damage, 24, and now you're at full effective. So this might be the stat you want to go for. And then with Arcane Cloak, another thing that I realized is, let's say I had really shit gear and my mana was only like 10,000. You'll see that for Arcane Cloak purposes, it kind of doesn't matter because in the first 2 seconds you're already ramped up. So if I had like only 10,000 mana, Arcane Cloak, if I would arcing cloak, attack 2 seconds, and I'm at full ramp. And that's still fine because you're still sustaining leech with 85, but it's really higher because everything's hitting more often, and this is basically a lot lower number than what it really is. But let's go back to the scenario. So basically that's with my attack speed and these numbers, that's why I picked out the cheapest one, which I was just looking through and seeing which one of these was the cheapest, and then I would take these numbers and plug it in here. So if let's say this first one, 52.23, 52.23, I would look at this and I'd be like, okay, yeah, I can buy this because at 6.7 I'm still 100%, so I'd buy that. Whatever is cheap, it works. But at that time I found the 60.20, which also had decent max mana roll, so bought that. Okay, so now the way I figured out my skill cost setup. So starting with level 1, I started all my skills at level 1. And I'll go over some alternatives here so you can see how this works. So at level 1, Storm Rain was costing me 36, right? Actually, let me go back to my even setup before that where I had Conk Effect here. If this would load, Conk Effect. Come on. Okay, so instead of Inspiration, I had Conk Effect. And so at level 1, my mana cost was 70. And then my Rain of Arrows, everything was level 1. So here, Scourge Arrow, okay, put level 1. So this was costing 19. And Scourge Arrow was costing 29. And then Barrage of Volley Fire, my main spender, was 34. And then I had level 1, whatever. Okay, I was at this point and I was looking at my numbers. I was so I was attacking away, and let me expand this. So here I was noticing basically this, where this would trigger every 2, the other skill would trigger every 3, and then the Rain of Arrows, it would be after a very long time, after 7 attacks it would trigger. And this was still kind of fine because with Mirage Archer it still laid out the 10 arrows. But then I did some more tweaking, and then I started slowly increasing my skill. And because Barrage of Volley Fire costs the same as Lightning Arrow, I was looking at POE Ninja and a lot of people had it at like 10 or 15. So I had it at 10 to see what it would be like, and at 10 it was 47. So every time I was leveling it up, I would put in the new numbers. So at level 3 I would put 41 and see how these numbers looked, and you can see that the efficiency decreased. So that means I needed to also increase, level up these other Manaforge setup gems to kind of catch up or lower the main skill. But then I went up to at level 6 it becomes 47, so I went up to level 10 because that's the next break point, because at 11 it goes to 52. So at level 10 what was it, 47, so I had 47. And then I noticed that the second skill was firing every 2 attack. It was very efficient. It was also 2 attack with the other one, but the efficiency is lower because I'm wasting, or like I'm kind of wasting quote unquote attacks with this because it could be much higher level. So then once I was here, because the efficiency of this was low, I increased that level. So I went to Rain of Arrows and Rain of Arrows. I would level that up a bit. So I would look at 26, plug in 26 to see how that is. 83, still not close to 100 or close to this other number. So I know that I can increase it a little more. 29. So 29, now it's with this other one, so I know it's going to be the same number. It's close. Then I go to my third setup, Storm Rain, and I know I can increase the level of that a little bit to get it higher, to become more efficient. So I go to like 80 mana cost. And so efficiency actually lowers. So it goes from, at 70 it was firing every 5 attack, to 80 it would be every 6 attacks. Then I would increase it even further. But anyways, you keep playing with the numbers. So that's what got me to my current setup, where I leveled this to 52, and then the other thing I tested was I had this at 52, level 15, and then I still kept everything low to see what it would look like, and these were the numbers. And then from there I played around a little bit more, and I realized that I can level these a little bit more. So I go to first Storm Rain. I go to 90, so I press 90. It's at 87. So then I try 100. It gets good again, so I kept this max leveled at 100. Right? So then the other two, so Rain of Arrow, 29, I tried 33, and the number got better, so I kept it at 33. Yeah, so you can max level this and it stays at 33, so that's good. Then Scourge Arrow, 29, 33, and then it's good. It's close to, now these all of these are similar, so they're kind of synced, and it's close to 100, so that's good. But let's say I were to increase this to level 8, and this would go to 36. Boom, this is bad. So now you know you need to lower the level by 1. And let's say you max it out even more. You go to 20, it's at 42. It's somewhat decent, but you're triggering it less often. from 2 to 3. So that led me to just keep it at 7 at 33, which still lets me fire every 2. So that's basically how I use this area here to get my mana cost down, or my setup right. So then the next thing I tested was the inspiration setup, right? So if I go to my storm rain, okay, so now here, this is the number that I was playing with. So first I got rid of, so I had a red socket, right, already, and then this was blue. So because I didn't want to recolor, I was thinking, oh, I can just replace elemental damage with attack with inspiration. But that changes to mana cost to 57 because these are different mana multipliers. So I tried 57 and it improved the fire rate. It went from 6 to 4, but the efficiency is kind of still low. So then I was thinking maybe I can lower the level. It goes to 52, which is nice, but then I'm losing a little bit of damage because it's a lower level. So then I realized that elemental damage or inspiration, I realized if I got rid of conk effect because it had a higher mana multiplier and then put back elemental damage with attacks, it brought me back to the 52, which is good. So it went from triggering every 4 to every 3, and this is 100% efficient. So this setup works for me. But now this part is what I'm not entirely sure about, is even when it was triggering every 6, so really it's triggering twice as often now, but even at 6 with Mirage Archer, it was still kind of laying out 10 arrows. Storm Rain can have up to 10, right? So I don't know if replacing conk effect was a good idea. Maybe like you can test and go back and not use inspiration and have conk effect for more single target damage, and maybe that's a better setup. But I'm trying this now to see what it looks like. But that's how I played around with this section. And now for a little demonstration.
Decisions must.
Okay, so pop in this map. Make sure it doesn't have monster it cannot be leached from. That's bad. I'll do this one. So now in the mapping, if you look at the Arcane Cloak section, if I don't use Arcane Cloak, it'll take me 5 seconds, somewhere in between 5 to 6 seconds to ramp up. So 5 seconds, so you'll kind of see that when I attack mobs. First couple seconds I don't do much damage, but if I keep attacking, it does more and more damage. And now that I pass the 5 second mark or the 6 second mark, pretty much everything dies in one hit. Okay, and now to talk a little bit about the playstyle. So when I'm not using Arcane Cloak, I would just spam at the beginning to get it up to the 5 seconds. And then after I reach that point, I pretty much like attack once a second or like twice a second. I would like slow it down a lot. Like I attack like once or twice a second. yeah, I just like move around, attack, move, attack once. So let me reset everything so it resets. Basically what I do is spam, go spam. Okay, 5 seconds is up, everything's dying. Now I spam like once every couple steps. And things die. Okay, so now this is all without Arcane Cloak. So now if I go to the boss, this is where I would use Arcane Cloak. And then if you look at this section now, once I use Arcane Cloak, in the first second after attacking for 1 full second, I'm already ramped up. So what I can do in bosses, I can just go Arcane Cloak and attack. I full attack for the first like second, and then I slow it down a lot. Like I pretty much do 1 attack every second. So that I'll show that here real quick. So Arcane Cloak, attack for a second and then slow it down a lot, and things die. Okay, so here this is where I'll talk about the attack speed a little bit. So the general idea is you want to get as high of an attack speed as you can, because it just helps with quality of life. So after I ramped up, right, even though I'm attacking like once or twice every second, like I could be attacking 4 times a second, right, but I attack once or twice a second, and with higher attack speed that just feels nice because you don't have to stand still as long to attack. Like 1 time the animation finishes quick, whereas if you had 1 attack per second, you would have to stand there for 1 second to attack. So generally higher attack speed is better. So now let's say you had a lot of attack speed somehow somewhere, and you had 5 attacks, right? So that just allows you basically this just allows you for a better mapping experience, where you can ramp up faster. You go from the 5 to 6 second mark to where you can ramp up earlier. Let's say you had 6 attack speed. I don't know how you would get this, but you would ramp up in the 4 to 5 seconds, which, I mean, for 1 second it doesn't really matter. But in bosses it's like the first second you're already killing things. Now let's say you had much worse gear and you had like no attack speed on Quiver, and you were at 3 attacks, right? Basically this just means that you would take in mapping, if you didn't use Arcane Cloak, it would just take you a little longer to ramp up. You would ramp up at the 7 to 8 second mark instead of 6 to 7, which doesn't matter at all. Like it's a 1 second difference. So what you can really do is use Arcane Cloak in mapping. So you start the map and you Arcane Cloak and just not attack as often. Just attack like twice a second or once a second, right? So I'll let it reset to show. So Arcane Cloak, attack once or twice a second, and everything will die anyways. So essentially what I learned was that having more attack speed just kind of increases quality of life. In mapping you don't have to use Arcane Cloak. And in bossing it doesn't matter really at all. So yeah, on Quiver you can skip out on attack. You can get a much cheaper Quiver, like a 1 divine Quiver that just has a life index, no attack speed, and it kind of doesn't matter. Yeah, but that's about it. One more thing to add real quick. Let's say you wanted to do a purely mapping setup. and you don't want to use storm rain here, um, because you don't care about bossing, and you want to replace this, let's say, with a lightning arrow, right? So the way you would use this here is, now let's say you replace storm rain here with if this could not take forever, lightning arrow, or any other skill, whatever that is. And you had like some difference, like you had tick tock, okay, greater multiple projectile for even more clear. Okay. Okay. So you're not using conk effect. Okay. So let's say this is your setup, and you want to just map. You use a lightning arrow, and you do this, and you want to see if it's gonna be efficient, and it's gonna trigger properly. So you take this number, 61, and instead of 52 you plug that in, and you look, it's triggering every 4 attack, 88. So if you want to, let's say, trigger it more often, you would maybe want to lower the, either change some of the support gems to like make it cost less, or lower the level, right? So let's say 55, it's still every 4 seconds. You want to lower it a bit more, 49. Now it's at every 3 attack it's firing. So if you want to do this, let's say you want to have it at level 10 with this greater multiple projectile setup and these supports, that's what you could do. And basically you can test out any of these skills that you want. You could try ice shot on your main on the main attack. You could try split arrow and play around with those numbers there. Just plug in the skill, and then try that. Plug in, let's say, split arrow here, take that number, put it in here, and see what that looks like. And that's, you can use this tool to try out different skills or different skill setups.